fundamentally, teaching of Buddhism is, in the first instance, dealing with oneself. One has a problem, a big problem. And the whole thing is the correcting of this problem. The problem is that we have discontent, suffering, which you and this discontent is always there, all the time. Little things and big things, always we're in some way dissatisfied. Now, if you think whenever one wants anything, one only wants it because one hasn't got it. That means to say there's dissatisfaction there until one gets something. When one feels a state of disharmony, which usually comes up as dukkha, the discontent there, and then one searches for something to overcome that disharmony within oneself. And because of that, we're always searching. We're always looking for things. And this constant searching all the time is a big problem. And the problem is to try and find a way to a satisfactory solution. This, in fact, is the problem of everybody. Not just Buddhists, it's everybody throughout the world. It's a problem with animals too. Same thing. The trouble is that we search, or rather, I would say first, the mode in which we search is always by using cause and effect. If we find some problem, we think now, how or what will be effective? What will be the cause to overcome this state? So we always use cause and effect. Trouble is, though, that we lack wisdom. Because we lack wisdom, we always go doing the wrong things. And we put ourselves usually into a situation which is worse than we were in before. Because we can't see the way that things work. And it so happens that the way we usually do things is just the opposite of what we should do. I mean, you can see the truth of this in any newspaper. If you look at the newspaper and you see the way people act, and you think, well, is that the right way to act? And they're trying to cure suffering in one way or another, cure discontent. And people go stealing, they go mugging people, they go all the rest, you know. And the reason for this is that in some way they're searching for happiness for themselves. And they want happiness. And they go doing it these ways because they believe that that's the way that they're going to get happiness. Because of their ignorance, they do it all the wrong way. And so they only bring more trouble on themselves than they had before. So the first thing in Buddhism is we have to learn to realize what our situation is. We have to see that this discontent is always there. And we have to realize that the usual ways people go about curing it in the world are rather ineffective. If they were effective, people would know. They'd all be after it. But in fact, you get people in the world, they think that this is a good way, they think this is wonderful, we do it this way, they go, and in the end they find it doesn't work. Try another one, it doesn't work. Try another one, it doesn't work. And the reason is that they are doing things purely based on their feelings and on their sort of emotional reactions. They think, oh, I think this sounds good, I'll do this. I mean, it's like a goat going along, and he sees this, oh, I'll have a nibble at this, see if this will do it, it'll be good, and then it doesn't taste very good, he tries something else and nibble at that. There's no sort of reason behind it, it's just what he feels. And this is the way people work, where discontent is concerned. So what we have to do is try and find some way to gain wisdom, so that we can really come to know what way we should act, and put what our wisdom tells us into action as well. But before we are able to do that, and it may be quite a long time before we can do that, we should act in right ways, having faith in what the Buddha taught. Because here, if we want to have wisdom and know exactly what we've got to do all the time, what do? We haven't got it. We don't know where to start. And so we've gradually got to train ourselves. But in the meantime, we've got to have a certain code of action which will tide us over until we can see for ourselves. And this is where the precepts come in, the rules, moral rules, the sort of modes of training oneself, restraint, all the rest. These we take on trust as being what the Buddha taught, and we take them on trust as being the right way for us to go. And those who've gone that way all say from their own experience that it is the right way. They agree. So the best thing to do is to take up the teaching and to take it up as near as one can to what the Buddha taught, and to practice that way. And steadily, as one practices that way, one will come to see the results in one's life. One will find that there is an increasing happiness. One has a calmness. One's not the same as other people in that they're all running about so crazily, looking for things in the world. Everybody's just running about. They don't know what they really want. But they're all searching all the time. And when one comes to a greater state of calm and happiness, one will see these people and will realize, yeah, I don't do that now, I know. I used to. But I don't. I can see the way they are, and I know what's working in them. Because from the state of calm, one can see very clearly what's in other people and the way they work, and what their actions are, and what their motives are, and what it tells us. So, what we have to do is to gradually practice this way. Practice the basic teachings which the Buddha taught, and steadily come to more and more calm, more and more understanding. As we come to more calm, more understanding, so we don't need to have faith, because we see for ourselves. This replaces the sort of faith in the sense of belief. Because we see that in fact it works, and we see why it works. And we see for ourselves what is good and what's bad.